Mua lava no whaatala whaatu le mamaru o le atu nuku le nei a fiafi. Le tūlama o ta upula tamātou tano koe le komisi mo le nei a fiafi. Ia matwhāroa lava.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, let me tell you something, Mateo. This Commerce Commission, and proud we are of all of them, have really done a fantastic job. In the last year, I think, since these commissioners have come on, we've gotten a lot of work done and have really shown a lot of progress. They recognize that we've got a nice, quiet little beach community here, and they do aim to keep it nice and quiet. And they're really working, at making sure that people are safe, they're enjoying themselves, and that our public transportation works out very well. Now, I'd like to just go through very quickly through the list of some of the new regulations that will be going into effect in the next few weeks and in the next few months. As you know, these rules have gone through the entire administrative process. We've had a lot of strikes and gutters, ups and downs, but we're finally at the point where it's time to start implementing and having these rules go into effect. So let me start with, there are 2 rules on hazardous materials that go into effect for those who are transporting hazardous materials. The first is a slight change in the definition of commercial vehicles to include pickup trucks that are carrying hazardous materials. So anyone in the transportation of hazardous materials, if you are using a pickup truck, those pickup trucks will have to comply with all federal and local hazardous materials regulations. The second is the adoption of federal regulations concerning the transportation of hazardous materials. One is that they're both registration regulations, so anyone who is transporting hazardous materials or is manufacturing the containers that hazardous materials come in will need to register with at this point, I believe it's MaxSAP, and with the Federal Department of Transportation. Now, as for the local fees, or local rules, these will go into effect on October 1st. And we would like to remind everybody that they do go into effect on October 1st and that that's only a couple weeks away. So we want to make sure that everyone understands that these rules are coming into place. Tint on commercial vehicles will be prohibited. This is done for passenger safety and for the ease of our police to be able to identify who's in a commercial vehicle. The only tint that will be allowed is the manufacturer's tint on the top of the windshield when that's put in place. But no additional tint can be added later. 2, drivers of commercial passenger vehicles, that'll be buses, taxis, limos, stuff of that nature, will need to post their photo identification within the vehicle so that everyone can see it. They will also need to be able to provide their rate schedule. These will be the bus and taxi rates to any passenger who requests it. So just make sure, if you're a driver, you have a copy of those in your vehicle. And if you're a passenger, know that you can ask them for this, and they will have to provide that. There's also a rule setting a maximum occupancy limit within buses. That will be determined by the OMV. That same rule also prohibits passengers from standing or sitting on the floor or on the steps of the bus. So make sure if you get on the bus, you have a seat to sit in. Now, all those rules go into effect on October 1st, and we just want to make sure that everyone understands those rules. You don't want to get caught, not complying with those rules when October 1st comes around, because this is what happens when you find a stranger in the Alps. In the parlance of our times, you will have enforcement against you, and we'll make sure that no one's caught off guard. Now, on January 1st, another set of rules will go into effect. One of them is that taxis will need to have signs on the sides of the vehicle, as well as the sign that's already required on top of the vehicle. The signs on the sides will need to have a little bit of information. They'll have to say the company's name, the phone number, the address, and the vehicle ID number. They do need to be on both sides, and make sure that people can read them clearly and know who it is. But again, you can use their logo, you can use your company's name, however you'd like to do that. The other rule that goes into effect on January 1st, this big one, is the rule requiring emergency exits on the back of buses. Right now the rule is that they are 2 feet wide and 4 feet tall, and they will need to be installed in the back of the bus. Now, considering the importance of this rule, the Commission will be looking at how best to implement that. Currently, anyone who is looking to renew their certificate of convenience between October 1st and December 31st will need to have that in place. The Commission will be reviewing how best to handle that. But just keep in mind that this is something that's been put in place, and that January 1st is the final deadline for that. Next is the rule prohibiting the use of buses less than 3/4 tons carrying capacity, limiting those vehicles within the area of the canneries and the hospital, without leaving the main road except to go to the hospital. So no going over the mountains. And when we say 3/4 tons carrying capacity, we're referring to the small buses. All right, that's just our weight limit or our carrying capacity limit. But when we say that, we mean small buses. They cannot be going over mountains. They cannot be going past the canneries or the hospital, and still carry passengers. That will be enforced on January 1st. That will be a strict enforcement. Finally, we would be remiss not to mention the seatbelt rules. The Commerce Commission has been working very closely with the Department of Public Safety, with our federal partners, on how best to implement this. We brought this up last November, I believe, for the first time, and we will be reviewing how best to do that. Currently, the rule is still January 1st, 2013. Bus drivers will have to have seatbelts. Now, again, like I said, we're working closely with our federal partners on how best to implement such a rule and then move forward to enforce it. And I think that's it for now. But just to recap, there's a certain set of rules going into place on October 1st. That's in just a few weeks. So make sure that we're all prepared. Another set of rules that go into place January 1st. And it gives us a little more time, but we want to make sure that that's done as well. Now, and of course, the Commerce Commission recognizes that new stuff has come to light, and we will be reviewing that in the next couple of weeks. So thank you, and Frederick, you can help us.
I live follow tele atu teatro proclame tu sai matula fono so no atu fa pertania le sunga loya e sin sile ya fia fia tu le sunga loya ina ya mamla ma fo ilanga lo ya ile situla fono lo fa tatia ya e silinga tu silinga le sunga loya ina ya mamla mai tato atu no ai mishe lo le mamla ma tato ngana. Sean, there's one question here about the rules prohibiting smoking of commercial vehicle. If you can elaborate on that, please. I think we missed that one.
I'm sorry, I did miss that. Yes, smoking is not allowed in commercial vehicles. The FONO has already passed a law on that. That's already the law of the land. The Commerce Commission has come and reinforced that. So now that there's also Commerce Commission violations, but the Commerce Commission basically said, the Commission abides by the FONO rule.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ole.
And adding to that, recognizing that the brain is the largest erogenous zone, and that reading the rules is often the best way to truly understand them. Anyone can obtain copies of the rules at the Department of Commerce on the second floor of the Executive Office building in Utile.